Well, hello and welcome to this episode of the Lincolnshire New Folk Movement. I am joined today by the incredible musician and creative force that is Dan Hickin, who plays as Loop Cycle and These Mirrors, which you can see he's got there on his Zoom feed. So thank you ever so much for joining me today, Dan. Make sure we're keeping you well coffeed up, like we're talking about that. Yeah.
Well, I'm supplying my own coffee, really, aren't I? You know,
well, that's true.
We're at a coffee shop and you're serving me that'd be quite nice. It's been a while since I've been to a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Like that one in Lincoln, Cafe Aroma, was that the one? Ooh. You ever been to that one?
No, I haven't. No.
Man, but I've arty place with
people
write things on the walls and things.
I'm talking to Ian Russell about possibly a coffee shop, kind of like doing gigs in coffee shops, which I thought might be a nice change of pace from the pubs. It might be quite good, that. Anyway, right. So, Dan, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into music, and why you do what you do. Why do you feel this compulsion to pour as much time and effort as you do into your music?
Did I say I don't like talking about myself? Just personal expression, and it is very therapeutic. And throughout my time growing up and everything, I found a lot of solace in music, where if I felt a certain way, I just had to listen to a certain song and it would kind of help me feel good and feel like I was, express things in a way that meant I wasn't kind of bottling it up and stuff. And it was just a good way to communicate a thought. And I always seemed to feel things very deeply when it came to listening to my favorite music. And I suppose that made me want to do it myself in the end. And I thought it was a valid thing to do, and to reach out to people with that kind of honest expression, which is what I saw it as back then, which is why I very much concentrate on originals and stuff, like writing what I know and all that, because I think that's how you come across as most genuine, at least for me, so
you've mentioned that honest expression to me before, and I think it's a really good turn of phrase to kind of capture that authenticity of something, because I think the reason I got into music, similar sort of stuff, really, that you kind of that the world can be very confusing, and sometimes you hear a song that tells you it's confusing for me too, and this makes sense, and here you are, and
well, there's this crossover with that where people I don't know if the kind of people who always say, oh, that song's miserable, that's sad, why you're making me feel bad, and all this kind of thing. I've never really had that with a piece of music. I listen to something, if I'm like sad, I listen to a sad piece of music. It doesn't make me feel sad. It makes me feel like I'm not alone. It makes me feel better, and it's like the one thing that's kind of brought me out of it, if you see what I mean. So, that's...
I think for a lot of people, that's the role that music plays in their life, to sort of... and I think because I always think with music as well, because it's a transient thing, you have that, particularly live music, it's like that's that moment in time, and you've shared that with that person and the other people around you, and I really believe that music's got a role to play in that, creating connections between people and breaking down those barriers of isolation, I suppose, that we all live in the bubble of our heads, don't we?
Yeah, well, that's what I've always hoped for. Sometimes I feel like there's not as many people who feel that way about it as I do. A lot of people seem to be more into kind of simple entertainment aspect of it, and it just feels like sometimes a real shame for me, and sometimes a bit more of an isolating factor that other people don't seem to feel it as deeply as me. But then again, that's probably why I became a musician and they didn't. But
I think that's true. I think there's the difference between and talking to different people about songwriting and this, doing these interviews, is it for a lot of people, it is who keep doing it over the years, it is a compulsion to write songs. There's always something kind of churning away in there, and to fight against it is probably not a great idea. And sometimes it's the sharing of it is how you go about that. I think, and I was going to ask you some questions about some of the stuff you do. But to start off with, just so you obviously do loop cycle for those of perhaps that aren't familiar with you. If you could just explain what
Yeah.
that is, and also a little bit about how do you go about constructing those songs, because they're
Right.
so layered and complex. I was just thinking, I mean, I know how I'll go about writing a song for like acoustic and even like a band. I know where to start with that, but I wouldn't know where to start really with the loop thing.
I'm just going to do a little background change here to represent the current subject matter. If that'll work live, hopefully it won't just break it all. Does that work?
That's worked fantastically. Yeah, brilliant.
That's more of a loop cycle themed background. That's one of the promo pictures for one of the songs on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now, what was the question?
Yeah, how do you go about
music,
it?
wasn't it?
Yeah.
I normally starts off with going for a certain theme or a certain mood. Sometimes it can just be an experimental thing with some kind of music theory that then turns into something. There's various different routes that I go down with it, and then it's just about kind of laying down that mood and then adding the extra elements in there. And it's getting tricky to explain now, but just kind of letting the song be king. I can't remember which quote that's from. I know Mark Knopfler said it once. I think he was quoting someone else when he said it though. But it's about letting the song kind of lead it and thinking, well, what does this need next for it to say what I want it to say? And yeah, so sometimes it takes me years to write a song, but that's just because, you know, it's sometimes difficult finding which path to go down next. I know what I want to say with it, but it's finding out the best way to put it down, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then with the live looping, it's just about also trying to keep it very variable and interesting, because obviously in the nature of live looping, it's cyclical. It goes round and round. It can get very repetitive very quickly. And so I've got various techniques to split things up and make it into more section-based music and put a lot of different changes in there. And one of the rules that I use for live looping is, if at all possible, each new part that I loop has to change the piece considerably. You know, like if I was like suddenly like introduce like the beatbox or something like that onto something which is not very rhythmic to start with, then that's like, you know, quite a big change. It's like, oh, this has got a beat now. And then just like drop the bass in and that kind of thing. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers the question fully or not. There's a lot to it, and I could go on for a long time about it. That's the thing.
Well, I could listen to it.
I might start talking about multiple simultaneous chord progressions. I might lose some people and myself if I do that.
And me, yeah. I think you're right though. Like I can hear that in your music, how it does sort of like, so you're taking things up and then there's layers, but then there's stripping it out. And then also I know you do a lot of that. Okay, well, we've got something going there, and you're like down on the floor and sort of tweaking the things. So although there's nothing new necessarily coming in terms of instrumentation, how you manipulate that in the real time.
Yeah, that's when it kind of goes into it, often more of an electronica kind of sound, where I'm using the chaos pad to put different effects on there and kind of chop things up in a certain way and give it that more kind of electronic sound, I suppose. I can't do that anymore though, because all of my chaos pads have broken, unfortunately. Yeah.
What is a chaos pad?
It's a interactive effects unit with a little touch screen. They've been around since a good while, but the one I use is the third iteration of them, KB3, and I think they've been around since about 2010, something like that. But they're a bit pricey. I think the price is going up and up for them. And yeah, they don't seem to agree with being on the pedal board too much. There always seems to be some components that break on them. I've had about 3 of them now, and it's like, you failed me for the last time now. I'm doing it without you. So I'm trying to strip it back a bit more with the live looping, because I mean, there was a time where I was going to stop with loop cycle and just concentrate on the recording side of it, and possibly phase it out altogether. But I'm in a position now where I'm probably going to try for a bit longer and see how things go, see how it is when the pandemic comes to an end.
And
yeah, and see how it goes with that. And if not, try to concentrate more on live streaming and things, which is something I'm setting up both for Loop Cycle and these mirrors at the moment.
So tell me a bit about these mirrors, because that's much more of an acoustic thing, isn't it? But there's still that layering, and like you talked about the musicality, the music theory that's gone in there.
Yeah, well, that was more for the Loop Cycle stuff on that side of things. On these mirrors, it's now about getting away from that. Let me just change on the background. Now we're talking about it.
That's it.
One of the images, one of the tracks on the CD with me and my dog. The track is called "The Promise." Plug, plug, plug. Every opportunity. What the CD looks like physically. Oh, it's vanishing.
Oh no!
It's vanishing.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So, and the question was
these mirrors. So, sort of like what's because with Loop Cycles, obviously that, and I'll ask you about this in a minute. The kind of industrial aspect and that kind of thing, and huge sound and so complex. And these mirrors, how did you approach that?
Well, I wanted. I mean, you've obviously booked me for the busking. Was it once or twice? I can't remember, but in Alford that time.
Yes.
And yeah, played with you in Louth as well, didn't I?
Yeah.
But that was, I think, it's Loop Cycle. But yeah, with these mirrors, I wanted to get away from the loops really, and just have it so I could just pick up a guitar and go either with instrumental guitar pieces or possibly incorporating the voice. I'm doing a lot more vocal practice now. I used to use my voice a lot more in the past when I was had the concept name These Mirrors, no, The Mirror Shattered. And I've changed it to These Mirrors now because I thought it was a bit too much negative connotations with Mirror Shattered.
Okay.
I've changed it from that, and that was when I did singer-songwriter stuff years ago. So it's just doing those songs in a bit of a new light, I suppose, and just getting away from the looping a bit, so I can concentrate on just playing completely on one instrument in real time, that instant kind of expression like that, without the added headaches and complications of the extra added technology, and like thinking, which loop does this sound go on? And then realizing later on when I'm switching the loops around, that was the wrong one for that to go on. Now I have to start the whole song again. You know, you get away with a bit more, I think, if it's just one instrument and voice, or, you know, sometimes not.
Well, I think like when you were saying right at the beginning, the honest expression, it's a different form of honest expression, that, isn't it? It's quite, because I've found this when it's just you with a guitar, then you're quite exposed, like as a performer.
Depends how big the guitar is. Mine's quite big. There's a lot of me.
Yeah, if I got a double bass,
with some naked gigs. I have seen people doing those naked gigs. I'm not sure about that.
Really?
Anyway, yeah.
That was an online thing.
Have you seen Jack Broadbent did one a while ago? He's in a band. I saw these images of him online. He did a naked gig somewhere. And yeah, I've never done it myself.
Strangely, I've never been asked, and I think I might know why. Yeah.
Hi. Let's not probe too deep.
So, no. I don't think anybody. No.
These terrible tangents, don't I? Oh, dear. But it's the laughs.
But yes, so other than being actually physically exposed, I think you are, I think emotionally exposed as a sort of like that, doing that acoustic thing. And I think when we were talking about making the connections with people, because as well, it's like with your pedal board is a substantial object, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. So there's obviously a separation there between you and the audience that comes from that.
They can be confused by it and get angry and start shouting, it's the pedal board that's doing it all. So I used to have a laptop on there and they would accuse me of this. And I'd have to stop halfway through and give them a little demonstration, do a little loop, like a little bit of beatbox, and put a bit of guitar on top and say, see, it's live, I am doing it live, you know. But, yeah.
It's a weird compliment, really, isn't it? It's like, I don't think you could do that. It's like, yeah, I can, and I'll just have.
No, it's like, and this is exactly how I did it.
It's like a magician, exploding it out. And that so that stage sort of presence you've really built up with Loop Cycle, with the kind of costume and the whole your your Facebook posts, something about my human, I can't remember what you call yourself, but
Yeah, well, I am obviously just his representative here on Earth, and he comes into me, so to speak, and
okay.
controls me, and then I'm his representative here. When he or it's more of an it than a he. It's like a
Okay.
cloud consciousness, if you see what I mean. So yeah, it controls me on stage, and so I suppose that's why I'm possibly more confident sometimes as Loop Cycle, and I've got a visor that hides the audience a bit. My blinkers.
How do you, because your visuals, which you've obviously been putting up in the background, I'm really pleased you've done that, because I think it's such a strong part of the overall package that you create, is that the visualization and stuff like that. And I was wondering about how you go about that as well. Is that always, is there a sort of symbiosis there with the ideas for imagery building on songs and vice versa, or is it quite a separate path?
Yeah, often. I mean, I normally have an individual image for each song that I upload. For example, on Bandcamp. I mean, you can have it so on there, so you just have like the front cover for the album for each song, can't you? But I like to have an individual image for each one to give some kind of direction or feeling about the song, which is, yeah, symbiotic with it, I suppose, as you say. And it's about just those images in your head, trying to get those out. It's a bit difficult because I'm not particularly a visual artist, so I just have to do the best that I can do, and not having particularly much money, not with doing music full time, I can't really, pay any professionals to help me out too much. So yeah.
Because I've thought more and more, I think lockdown has sort of forced me to think more and more about that kind of online presence and that visual aspect to your branding. Because, well, I think we're both you and I, we can talk about how that connection and the importance of music as a means of communication and stuff like that, but it is also a product, and it's how you get people to buy into the product that you're making, whether that's live or whether it's a physical thing or the streaming experience. And I think that those, so your ideas of like those visualizations, I think, are really inspirational to someone like me here, because I'm putting together the first album, but I've done that. I've done exactly that.
Well, anything that stands out, I suppose, is good, but I don't want to do it in a kind of false way. I mean, obviously, Loop Cycle, because say, well, I'm putting on this persona, but what it is, for anyone who actually kind of gets it, is the representation of the merging of man and machine in these, current modern times. That's what it represents. So that's kind of the idea behind that. The big spoiler there I've given away.
I think that comes across, sort of like, because you come in, you go, "You're all right, Dan," and all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, okay, he's now the cyborg." Yeah,
it's funny getting prepared to go on stage, because obviously it takes a while to set the board up on stage. I'll try to make it as quick as possible, but I have to get the other gear on before I go on and just like sit there in the audience with it on. I get some crazy look. I get up on stage and those crazy looks are still there. What the hell do you do? What's this?
Yeah.
But then after like the first song, they're like all really into it. And it's like, it's a really nice turnaround to see that they're like, then come along for the ride after that point.
Well, because it makes sense, doesn't it, with the music that you're making? It's all kind of like, you're kind of having that experience. You've done a lot of recording up on Bandcamp. There's a lot of different things, and I think, have you been doing remixes of some of your older albums?
A friend of mine, a Finnish friend of mine, has been doing like some proper remixes of some of the tracks, but I've taken one of the older albums, Blueprint, this one here, and that was done in about 2010. I just wanted it to represent the sound a bit more as it was, what it became, what it evolved into. So I've redone a lot of those tracks. They've been sped up, they're being remastered, everything on there has been sort of subtly remixed and rebalanced. You know, it still sounds similar, but I've just made a lot of improvements to it and brought it kind of up to scratch, I suppose, and tried to make it the definitive version of each of the songs that's on there. And that's like all the re-looped versions. That's called Blueprints Re-looped. Obviously, the original album was called Blueprints. I just felt that to properly represent those pieces of music, that's what I needed to do with that particular album. So yeah, hopefully I won't have to redo completely any other albums. Hopefully I've got the but you know, the first one's more like a chill out thing, and it didn't represent the pace that things kind of got to with the tunes for a while.
I'm just thinking though, as you progress, and because obviously you develop a lot as an artist, don't you, as you go along, and I'm just thinking 10 years time, oh, it's like, yeah, it's had to be improved again. Will it ever get left alone?
Well, don't use the Chaos Pad now, so I have to do the version without the Chaos Pad.
Which this is going to be a tricky question. I'm going to ask you to pick which of your albums that you've released would you say is the one that you would say go to that one, and that you think actually is as a piece of work, that one I feel like it came out the best.
I would say Edge Game, I think, which is a mini album. I think that came out as I wanted, and when I did the re-looped version of Blueprints, I kind of used Edge Game as a reference for the mastering process and mixing process and everything, because I thought that came out pretty well. And on that, got it here. Yeah. What that looks like.
Edge Game. Oh, I've got that one. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, have you got it?
I've got that one. Yeah.
And there's 3 versions of the tracks on there as well. There's some where I mixed in some extra kind of storyline, kind of sound effects to represent some of the concept behind it, like, you know, footsteps, breathing, jingling keys, a helicopter noise, and things like this. Yeah, it doesn't sound so good when I describe it like that, but you know, you'd have to hear it. Everyone should buy it so everyone they can hear it for themselves. Yeah, it's on Bandcamp and on my website as well. So, yeah.
And they can subscribe, can't they, to your website? Yeah, and then they get releases whenever they come out. Is that right?
Yeah, usually every month. I'm a few behind at the moment, but I'm working on that, and that's the next one I'm going to release is a song called Radiator, which a lot of people have been asking for. So I'm just kind of getting the finishing touches down on that at the moment, and that should be out soon. And then I hope to sort of ramp up the process a bit, because I had to dial things back for a little while, but I'm kind of getting back on top of it all now. Yeah. So I mean, that's the one that I would say to go for.
Edge Game. That's great. Well, I think they were all my main questions that I had. So I've got some quick fire questions for you. Okay. So the first one is, would you rather have an extra elbow in your arms or be able to sort of turn your head all the way around like an owl?
Like endlessly all the way around, or just 360?
No. Yeah, just like an owl, so you could turn it all the way around. Or if it's a deal breaker, I don't mind if you want to be able to swivel your head.
Yeah, well, either of those more than the extra elbow. I mean, yeah, an extra elbow. It's another thing to think about if you lifting anything up, or I mean, is it going to go the wrong way? But a neck that can keep swiveling, I mean, that's useful.
That could come in handy. I thought the extra elbow, when I was trying to think of a good question, I thought that might be quite handy. You could sort of like
easier, maybe.
You could scratch your back easier, which is an issue for me at the moment. I do have an itchy back. Yeah, I just thought with guitar as well, sort of like whether you could anyway. But that's fine. Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer here. That's having a head that can.
I've chosen the wrong answer now, Jake.
Well, no, I kind of think a swiveling head would be really, really good as well. Yeah, sort of like for the obvious, being able to turn around.
Yeah, well, it's nice having a bit extra than you need, just in case. I suppose that goes to the elbow as well.
Yeah. Okay. What colour do you pick in board games? So if you're playing Cluedo or Risk or something like that, what colour do you go for?
don't normally play those, but it would probably be blue.
Blue.
Like your headphones, that sort of blue is quite nice. A neon blue or a nice turquoise.
A nice turquoise. I get confused by colours. You know, these in-between colours like turquoise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not very good. I always think
Some
that
people think it's green, some people think it's blue.
yeah, I just feel like it's green, and everyone, it's not green, it's blue. Anyway, and the last one, which hopefully quite nice, straightforward. Are you any good at darts?
I try to be. I've got a dartboard down there, but no matter how much I practice, you know, I just can't get consistent with it.
Really?
So I just, do you want a dartboard, Jake?
We've got a
Get rid
dartboard.
of the damn thing. I've got two.
No, we
Anyone
haven't.
wants a dartboard, you know. Anyone who comments on this, they can have this dartboard if they want. You know,
So there you
anyone
are.
who watches this comments.
Get in touch with Dan because he's offering a dartboard competition. Yeah,
that's right. Let's turn this whole interview into a dartboard competition. I'm not sure about the darts though.
Well, they can provide. Beggars can't be choosers, Dan. You're giving them a free dartboard. They could just make their own
enemies
darts.
When I'm on stage, you know, if I ever get back on stage again, something to throw. I'm not very good though, so I'll probably miss.
Hit some of the friends. Oh no.
Well, take them on for the team.
There we are. You said you'd say something controversial, and now you've just threatened to throw darts at your audience next time.
Yeah, well, it beats them throwing them at me, doesn't it, for once?
Well, that's true.
Give a little bit back. Yeah.
Bit of give and take, yeah. It's like banter, but with metal. Yeah.
Like your metal.
Well, thank you.
Over the gig won't go like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you ever so much for joining me, Dan. It's been lovely to talk to you. It's good to see you keeping busy and well during lockdown. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Now, what song are you going to send me to stick on the end of this video?
Yeah, well, I thought, what with it being mainly about the acoustic kind of thing, because this is for like the folk?
Yeah, Lincolnshire New Folk Movement. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've subscribed on YouTube. That. And then the song it's one of the instrumental acoustic pieces, and it's called The Promise. So yeah,
The Promise. Thank you very much, Dan.
That's off this CD here. Yes. And
we'll put all the links below the video, so anybody wants to come get it.
Lovely. Right.
Nice one. Right, well, you take care,
thanks
Dan.
a lot, Jake. Thank you. You too. And thank you very much for the interview. Always enjoy watching them.
Good.
Oh, yeah. I'll probably cringe while I'm watching this one because I'm in it.
I know, it's all. I don't really watch them back. I just kind of like, I've enjoyed talking to you, so I got the best bit, which is the actual conversation. Yeah.
Well, you always seem interested in the people that you interview. I like your interview style because you do seem genuinely interested in what they say.
I am, because they're really interesting. yeah, people are fascinated.
Or you're really good at faking
it. Yeah, I'm just a massive liar. That's what it is. Yeah.
Knew it.
Right, well, you take care, Dan. Have a good afternoon, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.